Welcome, welcome. We got Bill and Dave here on a Thursday. I know you thought you were going to see KellyGirl, but sorry, you got Bill. Right, Bill?
I'm not even close to KellyGirl, so I'll do my best.
Sure. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, we're going to change this to Spot Fin Thursday.
All right. That sounds good. Spot Fin Thursday, gang. And speaking of spot fin, there's a nice one right there. Look at that.
That's a beauty. That's what they look like.
So, gang, it's Thursday. Usually KellyGirl joins us on Thursday. She's got bit by like 13 mosquitoes last night, so she is feeling really crappy. I don't even know if she's got dengue or what's going on, but she does not feel good right now. So she's not joining us, but we got the great Bill Barney joining us, and it's Fishing Booker Thursday. I want to thank Fishing Booker for being a part of our support system for such a long time. Your saltwater guide. Really appreciate our sponsorship with Fishing Booker. So thank you very much. And how does Fishing Booker work, everybody? Wherever you are on the planet, you just type in on Fishing Booker where you're at, and they should have some boats available to take you fishing with all kinds of great reviews and everything. That way you're never disconnected from the fishing industry wherever you're at. So check out fishingbooker.com, and we'll talk about them a little bit more during the show. But if you're just logging on and you saw that spot fin croaker, it's because Bill's going to be talking spot fin croaker today. It is the season, and things are looking good for the surf fishing. And it looks like the weather's mellowing out. It's going to be a big Labor Day weekend. There's going to be 9 billion people at the beach. Perfect time to go down there and cast your line in the water, right?
Especially about noontime with a treble hook.
Yeah, a bunch of them in a line.
Yeah, this time of year, this weekend in particular, not this time of year, but this weekend, it's really good surf fishing, but you got to go early in the morning, and then you got to surf fish in the evening, and you want to avoid, Saturday, maybe Sunday too. It's going to be cleared out by Monday evening for sure. Probably be pretty cleared out Sunday evening, but Saturday is going to be busy down there. So if you go to the beach this weekend early in the morning and then later in the weekend, or if you're going today or tomorrow in the evening.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about on today's game plan Thursday. So you're going to see Bill's plan, you're going to see Al and Pablo and Justin's plan, and you're going to see my plan. And the thing I'm going to talk about the most today on our game plans, gang, is patience. This is the weekend that you're going to have a big, giant backpack full of patience, because those of you that are on the in with your saltwater guide, as far as surf fishing or as far as boat fishing, you're going to be the center of attraction, because you're going to be the people catching fish. And all the other boats are going to be bouncing off your sides and sliding down the side of you. And all the surf fishing guys are going to be huddled up around you because you listen to Bill's advice and you follow it, and you're very successful when you go out there and do it. Same with our game plans for out on the water. Our guys are very successful when they go out there fishing, Bill. And what happens is there's a lot of people, I know it's hard to believe, that aren't members of the website and are out there fishing for people that are catching fish. They're not actually fishing for fish. They're going if they're going on the beach and they see someone that listens to your game plan, Bill, they're going to go over there and fish right next to them.
I think you're right. And this is the thing. It's like you go down to the beach, you see somebody fishing there, you might kind of gravitate toward them. Oh, that must be where the fish are. Well, right now it's like a really good example of why you should never do that. The surf is really small right now. So if I was to walk down to the beach, the first thing I'm going to look for, I'm going to get on that berm above the water. I'm going to look down to the beach to the left. I'm going to look to the right. I'm going to look where the waves are breaking the biggest. There's the most commotion in the ocean, and that's where I'm going to go fishing. I'm not going to look for where other people are. I'm going to look for conditions. You always want to find the conditions and fish that area.
And you couldn't have said it any better. That's the thing about being a member of our website and being able to follow along with Bill's plans and all the different how-to videos Bill has available. Same with us. And those of you that have been members for a long time, you know how simple it is to get away from everybody and fish. But this weekend, gang, is going to be a very, very challenging weekend for those of us that love the recreation of fishing, because of the fact that we know more than everybody else out there. So people are going to gravitate towards us. So if you have the ability to not go this weekend, it would be a great weekend. I mean, the weather's going to be epic. It's going to be hard to not go. But if you do go, make sure your backpack is loaded with patience, because you're going to be blown away. We have a lot of new people fishing, Bill, that haven't seen a Labor Day weekend. This is, if you're Bill and I's age, Labor Day weekend kind of reminds us of when they put the bounty on the shark in Jaws.
That's right.
It is crazy.
Everybody was out there.
You're going to see fishing rods and reels you haven't seen the water in 20 years. You're going to see people on rowboats, paddle boats. You're going to see them, all kinds of different things that you've never seen before that makes no sense to you. But this is the last weekend of the summer. Bill said it's going to start to mellow out Sunday night, Monday. Tuesday, Southern California is going to look like a ghost town. We've seen it every year since Bill and I have been on the planet. They rolled on the day after Labor Day, they roll up the sidewalks in Southern California. It is done. And now we can go back. We have the Indian summer starts coming around the middle of September. Fishing really starts getting good September, October, November, and the crowds are gone. So
Dave, it is absolutely amazing. Like over this weekend, you won't be able to find a parking spot. There'll be traffic jams. There'll be trash and people everywhere. There'll be people running in and out of the water, crazy. And then you get to Tuesday. I mean, there will not be a soul. And so you go, into next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If for some reason you can go on weekdays, and you get into the second week of September, third week of September, and then, of course, all the way till we get to spring, you'll be down there at the beach all by yourself. And when you're catching fish and fighting them into shore, you'll be looking over your shoulder to see if anybody's watching. I mean, it's really like night and day. It's really unbelievable. And, if you can avoid going down on Saturday or Sunday, I would probably avoid that. I definitely go today, tomorrow. I think Monday's going to be fine, particularly in the afternoon. It's going to be good. And then after that, it's going to be just wide open at the beach. And you're going to have warm, sunny days, warm water to stand in. Almost nobody down there. You're going to run into really some of the really good surf anglers in September and October are going to be on these beaches in the weekdays and in the morning in particular. And you can pick up some really good information, some good ideas, and some good tips during this period of time once we get past the holiday.
And what Bill just said is super important to understand. Why are those really good guys not out there when you guys are going right now? Because it's summertime, and their backpack of patience probably ran out a long time ago. So they know when to go and when not to go. And gang, we know a lot of you have big vacation plans for this weekend. We don't want you to not do your vacation. We just want you to understand it's going to be like, first of all, the weather is incredible. The weather is really probably going to be the best weather weekend we've had in a very long time. We don't see any of that westerly, gnarly wind that we've been having. We don't see any. You see a push from the south. Those two hurricanes, one off of Hawaii, the other one that moved up the coast. That's all pushing this bitchin' beautiful water, and also the calm weather. So this weekend's going to be insanely busy. So just know that. We don't want you to stop your plans. But my good friend Darren, Bill, just text a question to me for you and to answer. Going surf fishing this weekend, staying in Oceanside. The low tide is at 9:40 and at 9:40 a.m. What close beach should I try from 6 to 9 a.m.? And what beach should I try to catch and release a leopard shark at night down there?
Okay, and so what day is he going on?
He's going to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I guess. He said this
okay.
weekend.
So as we talk about today in our game plan, There are some fantastic tides, first of all, really starting today, going all the way through next week, where we've got a high tide in the morning, a low tide in the middle of the day when you're taking a nap, and a high tide in the evening. So if you look at Saturday, you got a 9:28 a.m. 4.4 foot high tide, and then you got an 8:30 at night 6 foot high tide. So you've got two fantastic high tides. If I was going in the morning and I was going to Oceanside, I would fish between the jetties at Oceanside Harbor and the Oceanside Pier. There's been some really big spot fin caught there in the past week or two. And so I would definitely be fishing in that area. I'd be looking for lugworms, bloodworms, ghost shrimp, and maybe some sand crabs. There's still a lot of crabs down there. If I was fishing the Oceanside area in the evening over the next week, I'd be fishing underneath the pier or around the pier. There's some really big Corbina right around there, and this is their time of year. They love that area. So that's what I do. And then leopard shark fishing, you can catch them during the day, and the little ones bite during the day, but all the big leopard sharks, they bite at night. And a couple of things to remember, leopard sharks. One is, one of the best tides to fish them is high tide going to low tide. So we look back at the chart again, and we see on Saturday high tides at 8:30 at night. So I would be starting at about 9:30 at night to be surf fishing for those leopard sharks. I'd fish them with 40-pound test, a 6.0 hook, either a sliced up, so you're going to slice down the sides of a barred surf perch, or half a mackerel, or a third of a bonito. No sinker. Put that hook right through the middle of them. There's no reason to hide it. Cast it out in the surf, free spool it. Let that tide that's going out now take that bait out for you, and that's where you're going to find the big leopard sharks. And leopard sharks are from the Tijuana Slough to Santa Barbara and everywhere in between. The state record was caught at Bluff Cove in Palos Verdes, and that's kind of in the middle of that entire territory. But you'll find, and that was a 42-pounder, but you'll find 35 to 45-pounders all along our coast. They bite best at night, in particular when you have a high tide around midnight and you're fishing around 1 in the morning to about 3 in the morning. That's really the tides and time to fish for them.
Do you ever fish that time?
I don't fish it as much as I used to, but we used to back in the day fish all night long, years, 8 or 9 years in a row, because we'd be able to sell some. I work for a commercial angler commercially, but yeah, I'll still go out in the middle of the night. Man, if I'm grunion fishing and I want to hook a big fish and fight it for 45 minutes on the beach, I'm looking for those big leopard sharks, 7 gills, leopard sharks, all kinds of stuff. As I've told people before, you can even get a hammerhead and a mako from the surf.
And there you go, Darren. Hopefully that helped you out a little. But gang, you heard everything that Bill's saying. This is all what you get at your Saltwater Guide, Bill's surf fishing plans that come out every Thursday around 3:30, between 3:30 and 4:30 in the afternoon, because I have a bunch of them that I have to download and get them ready. But we gave them to you for the last couple weeks, but now it's time to understand that it's time to pay up a little bit. We're not asking for a phenomenal amount of money, but we're asking for a little bit to help Bill pay off the gas bill, because it's already getting cold over there in Colorado. He's got his heater going right by his feet right now. So the game plans come out, and they're very, very specific to what's going on that weekend. So we try to do the game plans on Thursdays. And a lot of people over the last 7 years have asked me, Dave, why do you always do them on Thursday? Well, because 90% of the people I know have a job. And
Right.
they have to work Monday through Friday. And a lot of people will take an extra day off and take Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we put the game plans out on Thursday. That way, when you go down to the beach or when you go out on your boat, you don't have to fish for boats and you don't have to fish for people. Like Bill said, he gets to the beach and the last thing he's looking at is, where's everybody fishing at? He's looking at the water and he's looking at where it's moving the most. Personally, I like to fish where there's a undertow. We call it a rip tide, where the water's moving in a direction out to sea. The sides of that for me personally, seems to now Bill says it way better, way more eloquent, calls it what it's supposed to be, and the technology of the water. But those runways right there, Bill taught me a long time ago, fish don't have hands, so they can't dig in the sand and get the food. So if you look at a riptide, the sides of it, there's like all this turbulence and all this sand being kicked up. My brain, after I listened to Bill, said, I'll bet you that's their house. I'll bet you that's where they're getting their lunch. That's what the dinner bell's ringing, and they're right there on that. And am I right or am I wrong?
That's absolutely right. You know, they have no way of getting the food on their own. That's why they're in the surf line. People are often asked, like, you know, should I cast way out there? Should I get past the surfer? Should I get out? Well, yeah, you can cast out there, but there's no fish because there's no way for them to feed surf fish in particular, who are eating worms and clams and sand crabs and things that live in the sand. If you're a white sea bass and you eat fin fish, yeah, you can swim anywhere in the ocean. You can get them right by shore. You can get them 3 miles offshore. They can find food all over. Surf fish have to be inside the surf line. And we need the waves to be crashing and churning up that food from the bottom for them to be able to feed. That's why on days where it's really, really calm, like you go down there in November and it's Santa Ana conditions, the water's gin clear and the waves are really small, you hardly catch anything because there's not enough action at that point in time for them to find food. And they're not going to use all of their energy searching back and forth when they know they're not going to find anything. So whenever I see somebody at the beach, I've never gone surf fishing where I look at it and I go, oh, somebody's in my spot, because there's so many other spots. That's the thing. And maybe that was the good spot yesterday or last week or the week before that you were there. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be good today, because conditions on the surf and the beach and the sand change every single day.
And sometimes by the hour.
Right.
Sometimes by the hour. So you got to be really paying attention. Like I talk about all the time on the podcast. And when I'm talking to you guys, when you call us up on the phone, people ask me all, well, does this matter? Does that matter? Every single thing matters. So if you're standing on the beach where Bill told you this is a good area, he's talking the area, but then you got to get there and you got to dissect the water and pay attention. Look, you could be standing there focused on that spot in front of you, and right to your right, 200 or 300 yards, there's a riptide that wasn't there when you got there. And you should have moved over 200 yards and cast it into that. And it's the same thing fishing at the islands. When we get to a spot, let's just say we were at White Rock yesterday at San Clemente Island, and the current was going downhill, and we got 25 yellows on the boat. We're all fired up. We call Bill, call Darren, called Max. Come on, we're going to San Clemente Island. Yellows are biting. We get over there at 4:30 in the morning, anchor up at White Rock. No current. Sun comes up, still no current. 7 o'clock, no current. We got to go. They're not going to bite here. Even though it was wide open yesterday, the conditions changed that quick, and you better know what conditions are. You better know how to read conditions. That's why a website, and I don't care whose website you use. If there's another website better than ours, I would suggest getting to be a member and being on it. But what our website teaches you how to do is read conditions, because that'll change what you catch. Bill gave Darren a perfect scenario of what could happen in Oceanside, but every one of those spots could suck if the conditions suck. And it could be in a spot right next to where he told you to go. So pay attention. And if you don't know what conditions are, go over to the website and look. We have videos. These videos aren't very long, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, but we don't use a lot of baloney. It's not an advertisement. It's here. This is what you're looking for. This is the conditions that you need to catch a fish, whether you're onshore, offshore. And I'm so happy that Bill's a part of this, because there's so many people now that are surf fishing, especially as we move along with this beautiful economy. Even though there was this convention 2 weeks ago and they told us that we're all rich, and we don't know. We're so dumb because we're American. We're dumb. We don't know how rich we are. So a lot of us that don't understand how rich we are, we don't have any money in the bank. So surf fishing is a great way to go about it. It's a great way to go. I mean, I don't want to get too political, Bill, but wasn't that exciting to learn that you're rich?
I went and looked in my checkbook after that, and God, it didn't quite equate there. I wasn't as rich as I hoped I was.
And then remember, they told you that's because you're dumb. So I
That's
definitely
right.
want to vote for the person that thinks I'm an idiot. That's who I
I
want to
know.
be.
It
Yeah.
is kind of odd when they tell young people how stupid they are. The people who are going to be running our country here in the future, the people that we need to work with in order to give them the education that they need to make this an even greater country. So I'm never in the position to degrade anybody. And when I think I need to know everything, some guy will come along the way. Maybe he's gone to the beach one time and he'll say something to me and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that was like gold. I learned something from everybody. So really keep your mind open.
And then another really cool thing about it is when you become a member and you're on the website, you get to ask Bill questions,
Mm-hmm.
real time questions while you're on the food, because Bill's looking at the app all the time. He's looking because he's like me. We want you to catch fish more than you do. But here's the thing, people, well, why do you charge? If we gave it to you for free, you wouldn't use it.
Mm-hmm.
You would be like, it's free. I don't know. What could I possibly get out of something that's free? So we charge, we're not looking for a house payment. Bill's not buying a boat. We're giving you information that is relevant to what you want to accomplish, but it's from guys that have been doing it their whole lives. You're not getting surf fishing advice from someone who built a website in their garage who's never fished the surf. You're getting it from Bill Varney. People kind of know who Bill is. He's been around for a very long time. And to get that personal touch, I think it's super special. I really do, Bill. I'm stoked that you're a part of, and I hope some of these members understand how important it is, because you guys have been using your saltwater guide for a long time, and it becomes the go-to for you, and it helps you out. Darren, you've been using it for a very long time. You don't go out without calling me or talking to me before you take your kids fishing. And you seem to do really well by following the simple game plan. Same thing with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan doesn't go surf fishing unless he finds out what Bill has to say. And all that's available over at your saltwater guide, gang. So
I guarantee that it will make you a better surf angler. And one of the great things about your saltwater guide is that you have the ability to contact me and say and ask questions like that. Like, I'm going down to Oceanside this weekend. What should I look for? I'm going to Huntington Beach. I want to take my family somewhere where the waves are small, but I can catch fish and it's safe for the kids. I mean, these are all questions that you can, and lots of technique questions and bait questions and all those things that you can ask me in real time, that you can email me, you can call me and ask me these questions and learn to be a better surf angler. I guarantee you'll become a better angler.
And then Nelson, I don't know if you're seeing that. He wanted to know what you think the weather's going to be like the next couple of weeks, Bill.
Yeah, we have this has been a strange summer. We've got another low, that's a cutoff low coming out of the Aleutians. That's going to come down to Southern California over the weekend. It's not going to really affect us other than our marine layer is going to be a little bit thicker on Saturday and Sunday. But if you're like above Santa Barbara, Point Conception North, you're going to get at least a 15 to 20 mile an hour winds out of the northwest in the afternoon. I think on west face beaches over the next week or so, rather over the next 4 or 5 days or so, you're going to have a stronger afternoon wind. And then it looks like when that low passes, because it's an inside slider, it could set up a very light Santa Ana into the middle of next week and into next weekend, which will give us some unbelievable fishing conditions, both along the beach and offshore. So we really can't predict a couple of weeks out. The only thing we can predict in that realm is when we're talking about swell activity. Because we've had all these swells from the Tasman Sea off of Antarctica in the South Pacific. And those swells, those storms, those cyclones are about 5,600 to 6,000 miles from here. It takes them about 10 days or so to get up here. So we can see stuff like that. We can see the swells coming and the water warming here over the next couple of weeks. But we can't really look into the weather and say, hey, 2 weeks from now it's going to rain or it's going to be sunny. We really have like a 4 to 7 day rather window.
Another question. I want to get to this spot fin. You sent me some beautiful pictures, but Darren has another question for you, Bill. Do you know if there's anybody selling bait around the Oceanside area? And I would think that'd be the ghost shrimp, stuff like that.
Yeah, a really good place for is a Pacific Coast Bait and Tackle. That's in southern, that you go along Pacific Coast Highway or Coast Highway down there. It's in the very, very south part of Oceanside. It's on the east side of the road. And if you go down a little hill into the estuary and get to a roundabout, you've just passed it. So they're very knowledgeable about surf fishing. They have a lot of surf fishing derbies. They also carry lugworms and bloodworms. And then if you want ghost shrimp and you don't want to pump them yourself, call Seaforth Landing. Seaforth Landing often has a huge tank full of them. They're live. You can go down there. You can ask them to get the small ones for you, the big ones for you, whatever size you're looking for. And Seaforth Landing, who sells them for guys to take on the half-day boat for sheep's head fishing and bass fishing. They carry them live often. You can get them throughout the summer and into the winter down there. So that's a great place to check. So if you're not going to get those ghost shrimp on your own, go to Seaforth, give them a phone call, see if they've got them, and then stop by, ask Dustin to give you a big bunch of them, and off you go.
And then what I would say, gang, Darren or anybody that's thinking about buying some ghost shrimp, and Bill, I know you'll back me on this. If you think you should have 20, then you should have 40. I'm telling you. Because Bill summed it up real well last year when we were doing this show. I'll never forget this. When somebody asked him, Bill, what eats the ghost shrimp? And Bill said it just like, now I use this every day. He goes, whoever gets there first.
Exactly. I guarantee you, if you fly line a ghost shrimp on a kelp patty, you'll catch a yellowtail. I mean, everything eats those babies. So there's a time period during the early summer, kind of that May, June, where there's a billion sand crabs, where you might get a dozen ghost shrimp and go home with 6 of them because they're just not what they're keying in on. But man, when we get into the fall, they're going crazy on those ghost shrimp. And that now is really the time to use them. And like I said, if you get a Santa Ana winter going all the way through December, you're going to have some great fishing with those.
And then Art Nelson wants to know, how can he get one of your shirts?
Isn't that great? I've got to get them reprinted. I think I've got one left. That's a small. We went through, like 1,000 of them. A friend of mine's daughter did a Giataka, which is, I don't know if everybody knows what that is. It's the oldest form of a realistic painting. It was used in Japan, where they put paint on the face of family members who had passed away, and then they would put a sheet over that. It would give an image of their face that they could frame and keep for the rest of their life. That's before cameras, of course. So we do the same thing with fish. I turn around here, and I don't know if I can get in the right position, but you might be able to see on the back here. And this is a yellowfin croaker on this shirt. And then I've got ones that are perch. So we'll get those reprinted. They'll be available for you on your saltwater guide, and wear them with pride.
Absolutely. My friend Max has a question for you, Bill. What's the coastline best for getting ghost shrimp? He has.
In other words, where to go to catch ghost shrimp? You're going to find ghost shrimp in intertidal water areas, which would be defined as bays and estuaries and harbors. Anywhere from, the Tijuana Slough used to be really good. Now there's none there, but anywhere from San Diego Harbor all the way north, I'd say up to probably about Bologna Creek. I mean, there's some above there, but the ones that are on the naval base in Port Hueneme, I found out, going to the kiosks there when I was trying to get in one day to pump some of my own ghost shrimp that they said, we're happy to have you come here and get ghost shrimp, but before you enter here, you need to join the Navy. So I wasn't really up for the Navy that weekend. So you can't really get them there, but, and maybe Santa Clara River, you could find them. But if you're in Southern California, Santa Ana River, Talbot Inlet, there's an area in the Bolsa Chica wetlands where you can find them. Huntington Harbor, Newport Harbor, Mission Bay, and then all of the estuaries in San Diego. Just be sure to go to either to my site, fishthesurf.com, and look under MLPA, or go to the Department of Fish and Game site and look under MLPA, and just make sure you're not going into a closed area in order to slurp up those shrimp. But there are tons and tons of them out there naturally. You can find them in Los Alamitos Bay. I mean, really almost all around Long Beach, all around LA Harbor, anywhere we have an intertidal area that is exposed at low tide and it's kind of a mud sand mixture, that's where you find them, and they're under all the holes.
And something that's brand new, just coming out on the market, I saw it at ICAST. I haven't talked about it yet, Bill, but our sponsor, Promar, is making their own ghost shrimp catchers now. What do you call it?
Oh, good.
So, and it's the way you like it. It's out of stainless.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
When I saw it at ICAST, I was like, did you guys talk to Bill Varney about this? Because it is gold. The edge that you have to shove down there, it's like you said, it's very thin, so it goes in very easy. I've used the PVC pipe ones, and if you don't sand it down and make it real sharp, it'll wear you out in a few hours trying to get that thing in the sand. And I say a few hours because I don't really know how to do it. So I went with Al, and in about 15 minutes, he caught 50. And I tried it for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and I caught 2. and I tried to do what he said. Thought I was going to the right holes and everything. I tell you, it's not easy. It's worth every penny, gang, when you go to buy them. If you have not fished for them yet, when you go do that, it's not simple. Guys like Bill and guys like Al, they make it look super easy. If you don't know the technique and you don't know the way and you don't know the hole, there's a zillion holes. There's holes when you don't realize it, Bill, until you're looking for holes, and then all of a sudden you're like, I had no idea there was this many holes. And
I know.
Guys like Bill and Al know which one of those holes is holding, which is the craziest thing. And they try to describe it to you, but it's something that they know from doing it for so long. And it's hard to understand it. And I think it's practice, getting down there and understanding the difference, because the gosh darn holes look the same to me. I don't see the difference.
Well, the thing is, those holes, there's so many, like you said, there's so many holes down in that intertidal area. They have gobies in them. They've got other types of worms in them. They've got razor clams and little neck clams that create the hole. There's innkeeper worms that create the hole. There's ghost shrimp that create the hole. I mean, on and on and on we go. So who knows what you're going to suck out of there. And the other thing is, like, they will often, all of that group of animals, they will set up like a condominium complex where you could get an area that's the size of a trash can lid that's got 40 holes. And you wonder, well, what hole do I start with? Because the thing is that when you put that ghost shrimp down there, and so it's down maybe like 10 inches, I'm going to guess, into the sand, and you pull all that suction up, it creates all this suction in the adjoining holes and takes those ghost shrimp that you could have caught and sucks them way down where you can't reach them. So it does take a little bit of experience. And that's one thing that you're going to learn on your saltwater guide, is not only are you going to learn how to go out and catch the ghost shrimp like on a video or something, which is all good, and in an article and stuff, but we're going to have events where you come down to the beach with me, surf fishing it as a group. And maybe the day before we'll go catch bait, and I'll show you how to catch all of these different baits. You'll learn in one day what will take you a lifetime to learn.
And you gotta do it. You gotta go do it. Jason Cutter, Promar, and you can use my code YSWG and the number 10, and you're gonna save on the stainless steel ghost shrimp pumps, and they have them in the shop. And we'll show a video of it on Monday. We'll show a video on it on Monday, and you guys can see what I'm talking about. And I want to apologize to everybody for not being able to do the show Monday or Tuesday. We just had no internet here. Everything's fixed now. They're building a bunch of houses down the hill, and somebody decided that it was important to dig through the fiber optic line. So they worked very hard on it for 2 days, and it's all done, and everybody's got internet again. So we're happy. But that's part of doing a live show every day, gang. Stuff happens way beyond our control. And if you would have been around me, I wasn't a very happy human those 2 days, I'm telling you. We have zero internet. I am blown away, Bill, at how my whole life, if I don't have it absolutely, it's so sad. We yell at our kids and our grandkids for being on their lap. I'll tell you what, it's a devastating thing when an adult doesn't have his internet anymore.
It's, you know, I hate to admit it because I don't want to be one of those people. But up here in the mountains, sometimes we lose power and everything for not a few minutes and not a few hours. But last winter, we lost it for 7 days. And there was 7 days with no communication, no TV, no radio, no internet, no TV. And it kind of got to me after a while. I mean, I love reading and all that, but you're right. When it's a way for you to connect, and like, I get so many surf fishing reports. I look at all the beach cams all the time. I'm watching the surf. I'm looking at the hurricanes and all that. All of that is brought to us through this little cable to the house. So yeah, it does really get to you.
It was horrible, gang. I'm telling you, it was horrible. And I was just thinking, I can't believe I'm here in this part of my world, my life now, where everything's so dependent on that wire. That one wire controlled my whole life. And I mean, Kelly's barely talking to me right now, Bill. That's how bad it was. I'm not a happy guy when I can't communicate with anybody at all. I mean, Bill and I are trying to talk to each other, and even WhatsApp, which I use. If you really want to get a hold of me, all of you should download WhatsApp, because I live in a third world country called called Mexico. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. But I live in a third world country called Mexico. So there's times where the towers don't work proper and all this stuff. But if you have WhatsApp, I'm telling you, it's instant gratification. Bill and I use it. But then when I don't have internet, there's no WhatsApp. And so it was a very strange couple of days. It was gnarly. And we do have Starlink in a lot of places down here, Max. And I have Starlink on the boat we do the live shows on. And yeah, we're going to have it. But we're thinking very seriously about moving. So to hook up Starlink, because the fiber optics went out for a couple minutes. I can't do it. Fiber optics is lightning fast. It works very, very well. I've been using it down here for 7 years I've been here, or 6 years I've been here. But yeah, it's $120 a month starting for Starlink. I pay $330 a month for it on the boat, because Justin's out there fishing all the time. We're using up a phenomenal amount of mega giga, whatever the boo-boo things are. I don't know, but we're using a lot. But let's go fishing now. We talked a lot about everything, but you sent me some epic pictures. So let
me answer this question first about what's the strangest thing ever caught in the surf. I can't say that there's been a tremendous number of, like oarfish or something weird in the surf, but here's a couple of quick stories. One was I was fishing at the Newport jetties, and it was a little bit slow that day, and the surf was kind of medium size. And I always fish those jetties around 60th Street, right adjacent to the jetty where the sand meets the jetty there. So I cast out, and I don't really feel like I've got a bite as I'm slowly reeling in, but I'm getting hung up on something. And then the next thing I know, I'm like hung up on the rocks. And I'm kind of thought to myself, I was a ways from the rocks, but I must have been maybe somewhere close to them. And I reeled down on it, and I I couldn't pull it loose. And I took my rod, I started slowly walking, holding the barrel of my reel down and slowly walking backwards to break it off. And it comes loose all of a sudden. And all of a sudden I have a fish, and it's a big fish. Turns out to be a spot fin, and I'm fighting it in through the surf, and I get it in close. My buddy comes over to see me, and the thing comes up on the sand. It was probably a 5-pound spot fin, And he looks at me and I look at him. I couldn't believe what I saw. Somebody had been fishing, probably off the rocks or maybe a boat, but off the rocks with a sabiki rig. And it had either gotten snagged in the rocks or he had hooked this fish. And so what happened was this fish was snagged to the rocks with a sabiki rig. And by me grabbing it and getting tangled with that rig, it broke off from the rocks. So it had the sabiki hook in its mouth. And then up the line was another hook. Of course, we know the sabiki rigs from Promar. And my hook was hooked to the sabiki rig hook. It wasn't wrapped around. It was just two hooks holding together. And I fought that fish all the way into shore. And when I got it into shore, I unhooked that sabiki rig and let him go. So that's not the first. That's probably the third fish I've caught that was on some other line. And then another thing I saw on the surf back just a couple of years ago was in Huntington Beach. There was this incredible commotion. The surf was about 4 foot. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was all this splashing going on, and I didn't know what was going on in front of me. And so I went down to the edge of the water, and I took a closer look, and it was a whale, a huge whale that was caught inside the surf line at Huntington Beach. And it was struggling, it seemed, to get away, and water was flying everywhere. And it was crazy. There were birds over the top of it and all that. And all of a sudden, the commotion stopped. What was it? It was 2 whales in the surf line laying on the bottom, spawning. They were doing it right there. It was the craziest thing I have ever seen. And then they broke loose from one another and they took off. And I took a picture of one of them swimming away as it jumped out of the water right outside the surf line outside of me and took that giant eye and looked at me on shore. And I don't know, maybe thought it needed a little bit of privacy. So that's just a couple of things we've seen in the surf. But of course, we've seen all kinds of stuff all over, whether it's in California, Baja, or other places in the world.
Oh, and the things that we get to see, we don't even, it registers in our brain, and then we have so many cool things. It's like Bill could go on and on and on about all the cool things he's seen, because, and Matt and everybody else that fishes, you're all seeing all kinds. That's what keeps us coming back, because it's always different. And you never know what it's going to be. And that's why taking kids fishing has been such an important thing for both of us, is because we want everyone to have these stories. So when someone asks and Bill tells a story about whales, people get all lit up and they're super excited. But that was because Bill's been fishing since he was a little kid. So he gets to see all this cool stuff. Gang, I don't mean to stop the show, but I got to stop the show. Pacific Sport Fishing Alliance. That is who is representing Kelly and I. We're going up to Alaska with a bunch of our members. We're leaving next Friday. We're going to be gone for 2 whole weeks. We're not going to be doing this show. We're not going to be doing anything for 2 weeks. I've never done this before. I've never left this whole thing. We're going to be gone for 2 weeks. Bill will do the show on Wednesdays, hopefully. He'll have the show on Wednesdays. He'll just be here. Elliot's going to help orchestrate that with me and Bill, and then hopefully Justin and Al can do Monday, and you probably won't see anything on Tuesday or Thursday, but then Friday, we got 2 shows we're going to do with old guests that you can watch again on Fridays. And that's how we're going to do this. But I just want you all to understand, we have some openings for the trip to Adolfo Lopez Mateos, which we're doing in October. It's going to be the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. So 6 days, 2 trips. Each trip's 4 days. So we're going to be up there I'm going to be down there for a total of 10 days, two trips, 4 days apiece. You want to come fish with me in Adolfo Lopez Mateos? There's the way to come. That's how the guys got to go to Alaska with us, because Larry Hansen has the lodge in Alaska. Also, Larry Hansen has the lodge in Adolfo Lopez Mateos down here in Mexico. If I didn't have anywhere else to fish, I would fish Adolfo Lopez Mateos rest of my life. It's magical. I've been there a whole bunch of times. I've never seen the same thing any time I've been there. Everything shifts and changes, all the sandbars. It's magic. You've seen a ton of my videos, a lot of the aerial videos of Adolfo Lopez Mateos. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and you're going to get to do it with me and Larry Hansen. So give Larry a call at 760-331-2650. All right, Bill. What we got? We got some phenomenal pictures. Let's just start with the bait picture because we were talking about it. Look at this, gang.
Yeah. So as we reach the end of the summer and we move into fall, and really as we get through September, by the time you get to October 1st, there's not going to be a lot of corbina at the beach. It doesn't mean you can't catch one over the winter, but I believe that most of them go into intertidal areas, bays, harbors, estuaries, and that's where they find food and protection and so forth. But what happens in the meantime is the spot fin croaker, and man, have they come on in the last week or so. And it's a funny thing, like when we look at this bait in my bait bucket, we got sidewinder crabs, we got ghost shrimp, we got probably some worms hanging in the bottom there. There's probably some sand crabs in there. You've got an innkeeper worm there on the right-hand side. That's one thing about these spot fin. I have caught them on all those baits. I've caught them on a swim bait. I've caught them on a grub before. I've caught them during the day. I've caught them at night. This is the time of year that they're out there finishing their spawn and then trying to, fill up with as much food as they can for winter. And it's really been good over the past couple of weeks. So think about them, think about fishing for them, and think about using a variety of different baits when you get down there for the spot fin.
Right. And all that stuff is candy. It's just a box of candy is what it looks like to Bill and I know it's like, that's gross. Well, it looks like candy to us. Okay. And then here's another bait.
So here's their favorite food of all of the hundreds of spot fin I've caught over my life. And I'm telling you, there are way more today than there were when I was 15 years old in the ocean. There's way more. And the reason that there's so many more is because so many of these estuaries, the Bolsa Chica wetlands, the different harbors, the Talbert Marsh area, they've all been open to the ocean. And these spot fin go in there in the winter and they spawn, and then they come out during the summer and feed along the beach. And this is by far their favorite bait is the ghost shrimp. And this is one pumped. You can tell by my hands, which are like a prune. I was obviously pumping bait that day. And this is one of the ones that were pumped and act as, one of the very best baits to use in the surf. And these spot fin, even though they feed close to shore, halfway out and out by where the surfers will sit, especially the bigger ones, they will come in as close as possible to try to find the last of the sand crabs or a ghost shrimp floating along, a clam, mussel, things like that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful bait, and it's phenomenal. And you got to get that little pincer out of there because when they're that big, that little pincer hurts. I know for a fact.
That's right. We commonly refer to them and bloodworms as the bait that bites back.
For sure. Okay, so we got a couple more really cool pictures. What's this right here?
So there's a spot fin croaker. You can see the oil derrick in the background there. That's in Huntington Beach, and that's an evening spot fin croaker. So I love to go down to the beach. You can tell it was windy and all that. That doesn't affect surf fishing at all unless it's directly on shore. But any like south facing beach or a side breeze is not going to hurt your surf fishing at all. Really, even onshore shouldn't. And there's a fish that bites in the morning, the night, the evening, and all that. This is the time of day I love to go down to the beach, particularly in the middle of the summer where it's crowded. Everybody kind of clears out of the water around 3. So when you're down there about 6, you got it all to yourself. And man, are those fish hungry, because all of these little pounding feet, whether it's corbina or spot fin, have been pounding in the water during the day. That takes them off the bite. And when all those people leave the beach in the evening, because it happens consistently every single night, it clears out about the same time. The fish realize it clears out at that time and they come and feed. And that was a fish. Funny enough about that fish, I was down there all by my lonesome. I fought that fish for about 15 minutes or so. And there was nobody within really like half a mile of me. And I turned around to take the hook out, and there were the lifeguards sitting in their lifeguard truck, and they rolled down the window and they said, "What is that?" And I felt bad that they didn't know what the fish are that are swimming around below them as they're making saves out there. But I told them, "Hey, this is a nice size spot fin croaker. You guys mind taking a picture of me?"
Nice. So that was taken by the lifeguards.
That was from the lifeguard truck. Yeah.
And gang, look at that fish. where Bill's holding it in the back there, that tail, look at how wide the tail is.
Mhm.
That is why this is one of the most sought after surf game fish that there is on Southern California, because they got that giant motor in the back. They push water around. Like Bill said, it put on such a great show while he was fighting it, drew the lifeguards down there just to see what it is. That's why it's a really fun game fish. And we catch them in the harbors too. Sometimes I've never caught one fishing on a boat. I've never caught a spot fin. Caught a million yellowfin. Never caught a spot fin fishing offshore on a boat. But that spot fin fishing on a boat. But that guy, that tail makes it one of the most sought after little fish, because they fight like hell. They give you every bit of their energy when they're trying to get away.
They really do. You know, they're in the same family as the drum on the East Coast. And like in this picture, you can see not only do they have that amazing tail, but look above that dorsal fin where the spot is. They have very big, what we would call shoulders in the fishing world. They have tons of power. That's one thing about spot fin croaker. They are very aquadynamically designed, and then they have a tremendous amount of power in their tail and in that shoulder area. And the reason I put this picture in is I wanted to show you that not only will you find them on the open beach, but they particularly love to group up around rock areas, around areas where you have jetties. And when you're fishing jetties, you're always looking out to the ocean before you walk out to the jetty, looking at the side of the jetty that the waves are coming in on, and fishing on the opposite side.
Yeah. And then we got one more here. Beautiful shot with the fishing rod.
So that fish is a spring fish. You see how it's almost pink in color? Yeah. So that is a fish that is what you're going to see in the springtime. They're going to have their stripes are less prevalent, and they're almost a pinkish color. And then when they're spawning, which is right around this time of year, those pectoral, both the pectoral and the dorsal fin turn yellow, turn a bright yellow color. You'd almost think that they're yellowfin croaker, but they're so much bigger and they've got the black spot fin. There's no question what they are.
Yeah, they're thick right there where that black spot is. It's a, like Bill said, it's a fish that has shoulders. And these guys are all the croakers, they're all in the family of the white sea bass. So besides them being fun to catch, they're excellent to eat. They're a phenomenal table fare.
Absolutely. And these spot fin croaker, I don't know if you were able to get up the one of Marvin, that big one. That thing was probably close to 15 pounds or so. The state record is 12 pounds. That's a big one. This one we're looking at in the picture there is about 4 to 5 pounds. And I've seen one about 20 pounders, the biggest one I've seen. And that was caught down at Guerrero Negro, right around that zone where the ocean is really straight in from Cedros Island there. And that's where some really, really big ones are.
And then Tim Ogilvie just sent me a question. San Onofre used to be his hot spot for spot fin croaker. Are they still there now that the power plant's deactivated?
Yes, San Onofre is still really good. That's in the fish report this week. They've been biting down there. And then another place that people hardly ever talk about, and us surfers know it, is Cottons. So if anybody who's old like us remembers President Nixon's Western White House, which is right just tiny bit south of Cotton surf area. That's a really, really good spot for them. And if you go to Cotton's at a minus tide, you'll find a rocky area that goes out, which would be underwater at high tide, that has rocks, about this big that are they look like river rocks. And then there's a sand edge there. And right on those edge, you'll find clams along there. And that is an excellent spot fin fishing spot. Nobody ever goes there. Really good fishing along there.
Well, it's kind of a long walk.
Yes, it's a long walk, or you can pay to go in the park and have a little bit of a shorter walk. But all in all, it's a longer walk. It's a more hidden place. Back when President Nixon was there, you couldn't even go on the beach. The Secret Service would jump out of the bushes and pull you into the estate there. I had a buddy that was before they had leashes. We surfed there and he lost his board. He went into shore to get it. He disappeared. We waited 3 hours. We didn't know where he had gone. We saw some men on the beach there. So we took our car. We went into where the gates are to the opening there of the Nixon White House. And they came to the gates. We told them who we were. They said that they had our friend Kent in there. They were questioning him. They thought he was trying to do something bad. They let him go and they kept his surfboard. But they told us to call back a week later and see if we could get it back. So we called back. His dad and I, his brother, the Jacobs family of surfboard fame. We hopped in the car, drove down there to see if we could get his board back. He got let in. He told us he went back to this, like a shed that was in the back of the property. They opened it up and said, which one of these is yours? They had a whole shed full of surfboards they had confiscated.
Wow. Crazy. That's a crazy story. My dad's very first job he ever had, besides the fish, carting the fish off the pier for $25 a wagon load, where he actually went to work and worked for somebody besides himself, was working at Cotton's. Before all that rigmarole, it used to be a chicken farm.
Oh, wow.
Right there. And my dad would go there and they would scoop the chicken poop up and throw it down on the beach. And then the tide would come and take it all away the next day.
No wonder there's so many clams down there.
The good old days. Nobody would ever even think for a second to use that beautiful spot of land for a chicken ranch.
Hey, it was when you and I were kids, it was way out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, my grandparents moved to Rancho Bernardo in 1967. They were one of the first houses there. And when we would drive down from Hermosa, we'd get to about John Wayne Airport, which was just a private airport back in those days. And my dad would tell me and my sisters to take a nap because there's not going to be anything to look at till we get to Camp Pendleton. There's nothing down there.
No, exactly. And when we were kids, my dad used to leave from San Clemente to go to the bank. And his bank was in Orange. There was no banks in San Clemente. And we would drive. There was no 5 freeway. And so my brother and I would think that we were in a giant tree tunnel, because we would drive through Dana Point. Then San Juan was nothing. It was farmland, and you would go down the old road, and you guys can still see pieces of it as you're driving up and down the 5 freeway. But before we were kids, there was no 5 freeway in Southern Cal, in Orange County, and there was none. And you had the old road, and you see it when you go by San Onofre. If you look to the right, it's concrete. It's a 2-lane highway. That was it. But I remember going to the bank with my dad, and my brother and I thought we were in tunnels the whole time because of the orange groves. You'd be driving through the orange grove. It smelled so bitchin'. Life was so different.
Absolutely.
Life was very different back then.
I remember there was so much pollen back in those days at the orange. Really, the orange groves went all the way from like Corona all the way down by the ocean that I would be sneezing all the time because there was so much pollen in the air from those oranges. And my dad as a kid would light smudge pots, would get paid to go out on cold nights and light smudge pots all around LA and Orange County and Covina and places like that to keep the citrus growing. But back in the day, you're right. There was no 5. It was Coast Highway. And then, so there's 2 ways to get to San Diego. One was the 5, or what was the Coast Highway, later to become the 5. And the other was the 15, which back in the day was the 395, was the highway that took you to Mammoth. So, and it was 2 lanes. And that's just the way things were. And a lot of the exits, including Beach Boulevard to Knott's Berry Farm, were dirt roads.
Absolutely. It was a fun time to grow up, gang. It was. I'm not saying now's not a fun time, but boy, it was fun back in the day when we were little kids. Everything was simple. Back when a desk, remember in school, the desk could save you from a nuclear attack.
That's right. Me and my sisters joke about that, how we would have these I can't remember what they would call them, but they were drop and roll, I think it was called, or something. And we would, in a nuclear incident, we would drop and roll underneath our desk. And when I was a kid, my buddy owned a bookstore, and his parents owned a bookstore in Hermosa Beach. And he was really smart. He's probably one of the smartest people I've ever known. And he had a poster in his room, and it had a guy with his head between his legs and a mushroom cloud in the background. And it said, in case of a nuclear attack, bend over, put your head between your legs, and kiss your ass goodbye.
Yeah, that was some fun time to grow up. That horn would go off and everyone would dive under their desks. It was a simple time, much simpler.
Yeah.
Gang, I want you to go over there and check out Bill's game plan this week over at yoursaltwaterguide.com. Check out all the game plans. Check out everything. And tomorrow we have a legendary fly fisher person. We got April with us, and April has been on in a lot of magazines. She's on Michael Folks's History of Sport Fishing. She's agreed to do a podcast with us. She's going to be my guest tomorrow, because what we've done the last 3 weeks is celebrate the women of the industry. And April's very, very important in the fly fishing industry. And I love fly fishing. That's like my zen. Let me go tie a couple of flies and then walk out on the river and flick it in there and get a tricking a trout to eat something I tied in my, is just my zen for me. I'd rather do that than catch almost as much as a calico. It's right there. So April will be with us tomorrow, so don't miss that. And then understand that starting next week, we got 4 days. We're going to do the show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then we're gone. And it'll all flow, and everything will be explained, and there'll be cool shows and stuff. But just understand, if you're calling me and I'm going to Alaska, gang, for 2 weeks. Will I have service? Maybe, but I'm going with KellyGirl. I'm going to take some time. So I haven't done this in 5 years. I've had running this website for 7 years. I've never missed a game plan on Thursdays. We're going to do our very best to make sure that we don't. But understand, I'm going to be in Alaska. I'm going to do everything I can to take care of all of you. But if you call my number and I don't answer, that doesn't very often happen, but I'm going to be gone. So start to prepare yourself. The life ring is leaving. And so what else you got to add, Bill?
Well, it's just time to do some field research now and then. I mean, you got to get out there and you got to get her done, because you got to come back and report back to us. And we're going to have a lot of questions for you, Dave, like what you've been doing over the last 2 weeks. You're not sitting around eating bonbons on the couch, I would imagine. You're probably out there catching some of those big halibut. And man, there has been some monster ones on Facebook and on the internet lately from up in Alaska. And I've got a couple of buddies who are guides up there, and man, their fishing up there has just been phenomenal this summer. It's been really, really good.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. KellyGirl wants to catch some halibut, and Captain Dave wants to catch some big lingcod, and then he wants to go explore the rivers and streams. I'm going to have all kinds of stuff to talk about. But here's the other thing. The day I get back to Cabo is the 18th. The 19th, I'm going to actually get in here and do a bunch of work. And then where am I going on the 20th? I'll be involved in War Heroes on Water. I got 2 really good vets that are going to be fishing with me. I get to run Colby Duran's 50-foot Pacifica that I ran last year for the tournament. We're taking these guys fishing for 3 days. So you're going to get to see a lot about War Heroes, but I'm going to be busier than heck for the next 3 weeks. It's going to be insane. I'm not complaining about it. I'm fired up, but I'm just telling you, we're going to be very busy.
It's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of new great information, and we're really excited to see, on War Heroes, what you guys are catching out there and what the conditions are like and all of that stuff. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll be doing live shows from out there. We have Starlink on the boat, so you'll be meeting the War Heroes. You'll be seeing what they're doing. We have to be cognizant of them. If they don't want to be on, then we won't be on. But I'm pretty sure I know the 2 guys, and they'll be more than happy to be on there. Excited to show you what they're catching. So
yeah, I know, Dave, that you've met my neighbor Ted, and Ted Slaughter, Sergeant Slaughter, we call him, 22 years, Green Beret. He's been several times there. Really, he's from Colorado, lived here his whole life. He's lived up here in the mountains for almost his whole life. His dad's got a house, 10 houses down the dirt road here. So he really had a great time. He's learned so much about being on the water, brought home all kinds of fish, and really thankful for what you guys do.
Oh, I love what I get to do with the guys, because I never did anything to deserve the life I'm in. So I can only do what I can, and I try to give back as much as I can. And we appreciate every single one of their men and women who have risked everything so that Bill and I can do this silly little show and go surf fishing. So thank you. Any veteran that's watching or listening, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very, very much. And I feel the same for Bill here. And we do appreciate all of you. So thank you all so much. Thanks for watching our show today. Check out our game plans. They're going to be coming out in a couple hours over at Your Saltwater Guide. They're going to be good this week. I promise you, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Just remember, bring your backpack, and you better have a lot of it. Patience is going to be a virtue this weekend. You have never seen anything like it. Hey, everybody, here you go.
I remember the very first time I went fishing. I was 3 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday. I didn't know what my dad did. I just know he left for work every day. When he came home at night, he was covered in salt and scales, fish scales, and I didn't even know what a fish scale was, but he would tell me what they were. They were all over his shirt and his pants, his belt. I remember chewing on his belt when I was a baby because it had salt on it. And it felt good in my mouth when I was teething. I swear, I remember all this like it was just, I know it's hard to think that you remember this stuff when you're a little kid, but I do. 3 years old, sitting on the counter, we're going on the afternoon trip with my dad. And my mom putting my shoes on while I'm sitting on the counter telling me we're going fishing with my dad. He was running the Some Fun off the pier, and the boat was tying up to the pier, and I was sitting on the rail with my mom holding me, and she's saying, "That's your dad." And him coming out on the back of the boat, and him waving at me and saying, "Hi, David." Oh, I had no idea this was going to hit me this hard. But yeah, I'm 60 years old, and I remember it like it was right now. And then we went to go down the ramp and get on the boat. It was incredible, and that was it. I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted to fish.